Avengers.
This war is one I have to fight.
Alone.
You don't know what they have planned for you.
The great Nick Fury. One last fight.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This will be my new Secret Invasion trailer. Marvel's episodes are going to be starting pretty soon, so of course I'll do videos for everything. Be sure to subscribe to get the videos. One of the biggest things in the new footage is Super Skrulls. So a lot of you have been asking how they're going to be doing Super Skrulls in the MCU. They're meant to be highly evolved versions of Skrulls compared to the normal Skrulls like Talos and the older generation that have been working with Nick Fury since the 90s. So I'll explain how the MCU is doing Super Skrulls a little bit differently from the original comics, in the way they're changing the Secret Invasion story from the comic book Avengers crossover event. And because Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is coming out in theaters this weekend, I partnered with the Marvel people for a special giveaway. Thank you to our sponsor today, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy video game. Big coincidence, the Guardians of the Galaxy 3 movie is coming out right now too. I am giving away a few copies of the game to people in the comments. More details on that in a second. The video game is a third-person, story-driven, action-adventure style game. You play as Peter Quill Star-Lord and are joined by different members of the Guardians of the Galaxy at different parts of the story. The story picks up a few years after the Annihilation Conquest storyline in Marvel Comics. That was the story where this particular roster of the Guardians came together for the first time. There were some Easter eggs for that in the Guardians of the Galaxy 3 movie. The continuity of the game borrows from both the comics and the Marvel movies, so his backstory is a little bit different in the game. The reason why he left Earth in the late 80s is a little bit different, but he is still from planet Earth. And some of the characters that you encounter in the game are characters that are appearing for the first time in live action in the Guardians of the Galaxy 3 movie. The present day of the game takes place in the early years of the Guardians of the Galaxy team. They've been together for a little while, but they do cover the events of his backstory during the beginning. The game does have different outcomes based on the choices that you make as Star-Lord throughout the story. The soundtrack is great. It's closer to James Gunn's 70s, 80s music from the movies. There is no DLC or microtransactions. It is a single-player game, and it is available right now on all the major video game platforms like the PlayStation Store, Xbox, Steam if you prefer PC gaming. So be sure to check it out, and I will pick 3 giveaway winners randomly from the comments within the next few days and announce the winner during one of my Marvel videos next week. So during the trailer, you see several of the younger Skrull characters, like the younger generation, Emilia Clarke's character, her generation, with special powers that the other Skrulls don't have. Particularly Kingsley Ben-Adir's Gravik character, who's the leader of the evil faction of Skrulls within the larger good group of Skrulls. Emilia Clarke is playing Gia, Talos' daughter, who showed up during the Captain Marvel movie as this young girl. She just gotten older and turned into Emilia Clarke here. This is what her human form looks like. This is what she looks like as a Skrull. She's also meant to be one of these Super Skrulls with special powers that they've evolved that Talos doesn't have. And when we talk about special abilities, one of her powers is supposed to be shooting green fire or green energy from her body. So the whole idea during the trailer, like you see them constructing this special device here, it seems like they're trying to orchestrate this Super Skrull plan, evolve their powers more so they can take over the planet completely. But it's just meant to be the smaller faction of Skrulls within the large group that Talos controls and works with Nick Fury. For those of you asking about the timeline too, this is meant to take place before the events of the Marvels movie, because during the trailer we saw Nick Fury on the Sword space station, but it's basically like the peak from the comics. Same basic concept, except in the MCU he's working with the Skrulls to build this to operate it, take care of planet Earth from extraterrestrial threats. In the comics, that was Abigail Brand, so the idea is that eventually Emilia Clarke's character will become a version of Abigail Brand. I think that she'll be using that alias in her human form, but she's really going to be Talos' daughter Gia the Skrull. Originally, the Super Skrull was meant to be one character, and his name was Kl'rt.
Citizens of planet Earth, I am Super Skrull, emissary of the Imperial Skrull Expeditionary Forces. I have been appointed by Emperor Amok to be your new leader.
He started out as a normal Skrull soldier in their army, decorated for his bravery, his combat ability. He won all these accolades, then fell into disgrace, got banished. Then to tie things more to Secret Invasion, the original idea for the Skrulls to pull off Secret Invasion came from Emperor Dorek, who was the emperor before Princess Varanki, the person who actually pulled it off, came along. bringing it back around to the Fantastic Four because Super Skrull came from the Fantastic Four comics, basically. Originally, Emperor Doric is the one who tried to invade Earth in the Fantastic Four comics. It was way back in Fantastic Four #2 in 1961. Like, that's how far back it goes. The Fantastic Four wind up stopping the invasion, and then he basically takes all their powers and grafts them onto Kl'rt, making him a Skrull that has actual special powers, whereas most of the Skrulls at the time only had the ability to change form and just had basic super strength as part of their biology. Their bodies are a little bit stronger, more resilient than human bodies, in the way that all regular Asgardians who don't have special powers just have stronger bodies and live longer. Same thing with Loki's character. Now, like, Loki and Thor are different because they do have actual special powers. Like, Loki practices magic, Thor has actual celestial god powers. They're just changing this a little bit in the MCU version, giving all these newer Skrulls, like the younger generation, special powers, more evolved bodies. And when we talk about them doing classic stuff from the original comics, you remember when they started doing Tom Holland MCU Spider-Man for Spider-Man Homecoming? Really all of his movies in general, they went back to the original Spider-Man comic book villains, like the Vulture debuted in Amazing Spider-Man #2. And a couple years after they did that Skrull story in Fantastic Four #2, the Fantastic Four actually guest starred in that very first Amazing Spider-Man #1 issue in 1963. We're getting all the 616 MCU versions of the Fantastic Four really soon, so you can see how Marvel's trying to pull super deep cuts for all these characters. Like, Secret Invasion in the MCU is meant to be a combination of these things from the classic comics, the very original Fantastic Four comics, as well as the more modern version of the Avengers Secret Invasion crossover event. So originally, the Super Skrull was meant to be like the one Skrull that had actual special powers. Really good example of the way his powers worked originally was during the Fox Fantastic Four 2 Silver Surfer movie, with Chris Evans' Human Torch character getting all their powers at the same time and having to figure out how to use all their powers effectively. Really hoping we see an Easter egg or a reference to Chris Evans' version of the Human Torch in Deadpool 3 or Secret Wars or some other big multiverse movie. Chris Evans has actually talked about coming back as the character. Like, he just said that it'd be much easier for him to make that decision than to come back as actual Captain America. Just because the tone of his character and the idea of him coming back as Human Torch seems so tongue-in-cheek and kind of jokey, it feels like it would fit better as a Deadpool 3 joke than, say, like Avengers Secret Wars. But you can let me know where you want to see him come back as other versions of characters like his Human Torch in the MCU somewhere. But you can see during the Secret Invasion series in the MCU, they want the whole concept of the Super Skrull idea to be bigger than just Fantastic Four powers, than making him just a Fantastic Four character. And they're just saying that these Skrulls are a mutation of the previous Skrulls. We make more X-Men jokes and references because we will see X-Men characters start popping up pretty soon. Speaking of which, Wolverine in Deadpool 3. Also, them using a lot of Abigail brand Easter eggs for Emilia Clarke's character, even if she's playing somebody a little bit different, is them doing more X-Men Easter eggs. The other cool Super Skrull Easter egg here, because they've slowly been setting up the Young Avengers characters in the background of all these movies and TV series since Marvel Phase 4 and now Marvel Phase 5, one of the next characters who was on that original team was the Hulkling character, who's secretly the grandson of that original Skrull Emperor Doric who fought the Fantastic Four and got the idea to pull off Secret Invasion, but died before they actually were able to pull it off. The reason why Hulkling is green, why he calls himself Hulkling, has nothing to do with him being a Hulk or having gamma powers. It's just because he's a green Skrull and because he's so thick, like he's huge. He does also have some special powers like these evolved versions of Skrulls, these Super Skrulls that we see in the MCU version of the Secret Invasion trailer too. There have been a lot of you asking whether or not they're actually going to do Hulkling in this new MCU Secret Invasion series or tease the character somehow. It's always possible. The main new characters, though, that I think they're trying to introduce in a big way are mostly Emilia Clarke's character and the other Super Skrulls who have powers now. Like I said, I think the long-term plan for Emilia Clarke's character, just based on what we've heard about the series so far, is that they'll set her up with an alias of Abigail Brand, and she'll become a version of that character working with Nick Fury. And I think the idea is that she's going to take her father's place because her father, Talos, has been working with Nick Fury, basically doing that. It does seem like he almost dies, or he winds up dying at some point during the trailer, like she's cradling his body here as he's all messed up. Everyone pour one out for Talos, press F to pay respects. You can let me know in the comments if you think he's actually going to die during the series, or they just want to make us think that he's going to die. Nick Fury certainly keeps saying that during the trailer, like one last ride, one last time. The funny thing about that, there's been so many twists that have killed him off and that brought him back, like the snap and the blip. Samuel L. Jackson said that he would come back as many times as they would have him. Like, he does have a contract for a bunch of movies, but he keeps asking them, like, every time there's a movie that comes along, how come I'm not in this one? Usually it's very tongue-in-cheek, like Kevin Feige will be like, no, you're gonna be in this other stuff, don't worry, we're gonna put you in some more stuff. Now everybody asking him when he's gonna come back as Mace Windu in the Star Wars movies and series. And speaking of Fantastic Four, there have been a lot of casting announcements. We're supposed to get the official cast pretty soon, so of course I'll do more Fantastic Four videos separately as we learn more about those characters. Real big reminder, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is coming out this weekend. Be sure to go see it as soon as possible. My post-credit scene video, full Easter eggs breakdown, will start posting in the next couple of days as it comes out in theaters. Everyone click here for all those videos. I'll update the link as soon as I post those. And click here for all my other Marvel Secret Invasion trailer videos. Thank you so much for watching. Everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.